Okay, I guess it's my time to share. My name's Steve. I'm an alcoholic. I want to say I love Alcoholics Anonymous. I want to thank Louie for inviting me to share with you guys. I've got 4 friends in this room I used to party with and grow up with, and it's really nice to have old friends that I used to live with, drink and use with, doing the same thing. I've known Louie since I was 5 years old, and I've been a lot through with him. And I know Mike and Eric and Addison. I grew up with these guys. It's kind of reconnected in this program, which is really nice. So for me, if you told me 5 years ago that I'd be in AA and I'd say I love AA, my sobriety date is February 10th, 2019, and it was a sobriety date picked by the San Gabriel PD. It was not picked by me. And why I came to AA, I was one of those assholes that I was given the gift of desperation. I was the guy that had to lose everything, lose all my friends, just basically everything, and have no dignity, and just be in a deep, dark pit to finally say, you know what, I'm going to give this thing a try. And I just came in here willing to change. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know I was going to get better. I didn't know I was going to get certain things. I was just like, you know what, I was miserable sober, and I was miserable high on drugs and alcohol. They just stopped working. And you know what? For me, alcohol was always there, but drugs is a big part of my story too. To me, drugs and alcohol was like salt and pepper. They went together. I felt uncomfortable. If I had one and didn't have the other, I'd feel uncomfortable. So I grew up in the city of San Gabriel, in a little park called The Village. And I look back now in hindsight, I had alcoholic tendencies before I was an alcoholic, I wasn't comfortable in my own skin. I was always in some kind of trouble, like throwing, I grew up in the 80s when we didn't have internet, when like fun was like throwing rocks at cars and TPing houses and making bombs out of fireworks, shit like that. Like I was a kid and there was kids everywhere running around. So I always had kids to play with. I had a good childhood. None of my immediate family drinks or uses. My dad was a parole officer, my mom was a school teacher, my brother finished school, and then there was me. I was the high school dropout. I was kind of the black sheep of the family. So I remember the first time I got drunk, I was in 8th grade, and I have a brother who's 5 years older, and I went to a high school party that he was not at, and I got drunk with his friends. And for me, right away, I liked the feeling that alcohol gave me. So as soon as I tried marijuana, I was like, oh wow, I was like, give me whatever else. All that just say no 80s shit went out the window the first time I got drunk and stuff. I remember the first time doing cocaine was with Louie at 15. He called up some 40-year-old man. I was like, how do you know this fucking guy? So, and all that I was told as a kid just didn't matter, because I liked the effect that alcohol and drugs gave me. And I used that for everything, for stress, for anything, any of my problems. That was the thing I ran to and stuff. And I remember from the age of 15 to 19, I used anything I could get my hands on and stuff. And I remember around the age of 19, I said, you know what, I'm not doing hard drugs anymore, this and that. And there was about a 4 or 5 year period where all I did was smoke marijuana and drank, but I drank heavily every day. And I think around the age 24, 25, it stopped working, and someone reintroduced me to cocaine. And I got really hooked on cocaine really bad for a long time. I lost a lot of stuff. And everyone knew I had a problem except me. I had lost relationships. I lost the trust of a lot of my family members. And, I got introduced to AA in 2003 because I wanted to stay out of prison. Someone told me in jail, if you tell them you're an addict, they'll send you to rehab instead of prison. And I got introduced to AA. I was court ordered to a year of rehab, but because I didn't get a sponsor and I didn't work any steps and I just didn't want it, I kept relapsing. It took me about 3 years to finish that year, whatever. And I always thought I just had a problem with cocaine and meth. I didn't make the connection that you got to stop doing everything, if you want to quit, And I remember in 2003, I learned, about the obsession of the mind and the phenomenon of craving, but I was like, fuck that. No, I'm not like you people. Like, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to drink like a gentleman again, and, I'm going to be able to smoke a little weed. And I tried that for another 16 years. And what got me off of cocaine was methamphetamine, Somebody was like, why are you smoking that stuff? This stuff's way better. It's cheaper. It lasts longer. But alcohol was always there. Alcohol was always the catalyst. And in the last 5 years of my addiction, I got arrested like 14 times in a row for the same shit. Like, I remember my lawyer going, you don't have a lot of big stuff, but you have all this little stuff all the way back to the age of 15, 26 arrests, all alcohol and drug related. And the last time I got arrested, I don't know what it was, but I was sitting in jail in that holding cell. And it was the first time, I was 43 years old, and it was the first time I was honest with myself, where I said, I'm an alcoholic, I have a drug problem, and I need to go get help. And I need to go to AA because I've seen it work for other people and stuff. And so I remember going to court, and I told my lawyer I want to go to rehab. And he's like, why do you want to go to rehab? You're in here for a restraining order. You're going to be out like 30, 60 days. If you want to go to treatment, you might have to sit in jail for a year. And I said, I don't care. I'll do whatever it takes. I just want to change. And I was able to prove to the judge, I'm like, if you let me out right now, I'm going to come right back here. And this judge I went in front of was just fed up with me. She's like, I don't want to see you anymore. You know, good, go to treatment. So it's kind of like God was watching out for me, because the way things worked out for me worked out really well. You know, just things seemed to fall in place and stuff. And I didn't know it was God at first, but now I look back. So, you know, I was never that lucky in life. So I knew it wasn't luck. It was like, as soon as I gave myself to my higher power and let him do the driving, good shit started to happen. And I was like, there's gotta be a God. So I sat in jail for like 6 months or 7 months in my first 7 months of sobriety. And even then I was still kind of like, I hope this works. I just want to change. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this AA thing. So the first God sent to me was when I was released from jail, some guy, I thought they were just going to drop me off at someplace, River Community in Azusa. And because I had been to rehab before. I'd done what they said and, you know, this and that, you know, shucked and jive. I was never honest with myself. This guy picks me up and he's all, I'm your caseworker. And I'm like, what does that mean? He's all, I'm going to help you out with anything you need. You know, because I didn't know how to use a computer. I didn't know an email. You know, I thought Wi-Fi was some new like emo band or some shit. You know what I mean? I was like way behind in technology and everything. So this guy's like, we're taking you to sober living. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to go to rehab. He's like, no, we think it'll be better. You're going to go to a structured sober living where they have rules, and you're going to do an outpatient with us. And I'm glad for that. You know, they put me in I was with a good group of guys. I went to a sober living in West Covina, and you know, it wasn't until I had about a year and a half. I think at first I was just doing AA because I wanted to get my shit back. I wanted to get my family's trust back. I wanted to get some stuff back. And I think around a year and a half of sobriety, I was like, you know what? I really want to do this. I like this. This is fucking working. I didn't have any of the material shit, but I liked the way I felt. I saw in the mirror and I was like, there's fucking hope, because I applied myself. I did the steps. I got a sponsor. Thank God for that sober living. Part of the rules was if you wanted to get privileges, you had to get a sponsor. You had to work the steps. The guy that ran the place would ask me, what step are you on? Explain it to me and stuff. So I knew I couldn't lie about that stuff. And I'm glad they did that, because when I first got there, what I focused on was just getting out of bed on time, making my bed, taking a shower, because I was so bad, I had to like have something in my system just to shave in the morning. That's how bad I was at the end, you know? And so I'm glad for that program structure. You know, when the year was up, my probation officer's like, you're free, you're done, you can do what you want. I'm like, no, I'm staying at the sober living. And another thing too, by the grace of God, this outpatient program I went to, not only did they teach me how to, you know, do things in life, like fill out resumes and use the computer and stuff like that, get a bank account. They also helped me, they paid my rent for a couple of years, you know, which helped out a lot. So I was really able to focus on my sobriety. You know, I got commitments. I, you know, met with my sponsor once or twice a week. I've read the big book front to back. I still don't remember what I read, but I'm still reading it. You know, I study that thing like a textbook. And today, I can honestly say I'm probably the happiest I've ever been in my life. And this is something I want to do for the rest of my life, stay sober. And I know to do that, I have to keep coming to these meetings. I got to be of service. I got to keep having faith in my higher power. You know, I still get depressed. I have my bad days and stuff like that, but I get through it, you know, because I was given, you know, I tell my sponsees, these steps, okay, you can getting sober is easy, it's staying sober is the hard part. And with these steps and what this program did for me, and the things I learned from the big book, it gives you the tools for when that moment comes up where you have some kind of emotion, or you have a bad day, or whatever, to not drink or use. And part of that drinking, those tools is just reaching out to other people. So many times I call my sponsor and be like, man, I want to fucking drink right now. And he'd come over, or he'd talk me out of it, put some sense into my head. We know the right thing to do, but us as alcoholics, it's not till someone else that we trust points it out to us. And I really trust my sponsor. I love my sponsor. When he would say it, it would resonate, and I'd be like, you're right, And today, things are great for me. And I remember, I didn't even finish I finished the 10th grade, and after that I never went. I ditched so much school. And back in the day, I went to a few classes of college to get my dad off my back. And at about 2 years sober, my counselor was like, hey, it's time to go to school. You need to go to school. What do you want to do? And I remember my dad's like, you should become a parole officer. You're really good with people and stuff. And then I thought about it, and I'm like, no, you know what? I want to become a drug and alcohol counselor. I want to help other people get the same thing I got out of this. And, I've been going to Mount Sac, doing the courses online. I'm only taking a couple classes a semester, 2 classes, but every class I've gotten an A in, which amazes me. I show up on time at work. I'm not stealing from my job. I actually work when I'm there. My mother trusts me because at a young age, my dad enabled me. I think I was out there for so long because my dad always enabled me. He'd tell my mom, I'm showing him love. He's my son. I have to take care of him. But in truth, my dad was enabling me. He should have went to Al-Anon a long time ago. Because as soon as my mom went to Al-Anon, I couldn't manipulate her anymore. That shit stopped. So, and it's funny, I've been through things in sobriety where I didn't have to pick up because my dad was like my best friend and he was my rock. And at about 2 years sober, he passed. And it was okay. I didn't feel the need to pick up or use. I had a lot of friends I had just met from Covina, because I live in Covina now. I'm from this area, but I stay in Covina. I like it there because I could put some roots down there. And a lot of these people just showed up at my house and were like, are you okay? And none of my using, when you're out there, we don't do that with each other. And so that was, that was the gift of this program and stuff. And I was just did like the old timers said, which was, take the content out of your ears and put it in your mouth and just shut up and listen. I didn't share in a meeting for a year and a half, until I just listened. And that was the first time in my life, and I'm glad I did that. I'm not perfect. I'm still very flawed, but the progress I've made in these last 3.5 years, I'm happy, And a lot of my resentments I had against people turned into things where I had to go, you know what? Please forgive me. Why should, my sponsor was like, this is ridiculous. He would point out all the flaws in my 4-step. You're mad at these people. You're mad at the cops for just doing their job, you know what I mean? Shit like that. I was mad at my parents because they didn't give me the perfect life and stuff. I'm like, I was so spoiled brat. And I had to, I was able to make amends to my, family and stuff. I've got my mom in my life. We've got a great relationship. She leaves her purse in front of me. Also, too, and there's another thing I learned. Not everybody's going to forgive you. My brother, my older brother, he's not one of us. He's still kind of on the fence. I still haven't been invited over for Christmas, but that's okay. He'll come around eventually if I just keep doing what I'm doing. What else, man? I've got a new girlfriend in my life. She's a normie. She's not one of us. It's funny because I was on Facebook dating, and I'd have all these bad experiences where as soon as it got to about the truth of my reality, it was later, gone, messaging stopped and stuff. So with this girl, that's the first thing I told her was the first thing in my message was hey, this is where I'm at. I'm an alcoholic. And she was like, hey, I don't have a problem with it. Just keep going to your fucking meetings and stay sober. And we're cool. I'm madly in love with her. And it's been a long time since I felt this way about somebody. I got a job. I got people back in my life. I've got sponsees. I go to a lot of meetings. I like going to meetings now, And also, too, I'll emphasize, if you have mental health issues, too, take care of those, too, man. Don't let anybody tell you different. See your psychiatrist, do your AA meetings, and go to church, It's made me a better Catholic. I hated the Catholic Church for a long time. Because I was, fire and brimstone shit, fuck that. But today I've got a higher power of my understanding, and it's all because of this program. And I can honestly say, I love AA. And thank you. That's all I have to share.